Home is where the streets smell like rain. Home is where the sun peeks from above the mountains. Home is where the kids pick up wooden sticks and a tennis ball and play cricket in the muddy park. Home is where the bridges and unfinished buildings are covered in dust and rubble. Home is where under those bridges, kids bring ripped books and broken pencils to learn their alphabet. Home is where the only thing that fuels people to go further is ambition, because the broken pencils do not reflect their dreams. Home is working in the heat of Karachi, Pakistan, and staying up in the cold night reading. Home is where girls hide their faces but do not hide their voices. Home itself is broken, but the people living in it are not.
Who lives? Who dies? Who tells your story? That is up to you.
Being the dean at Mount Verde Academy is an awesome experience because of the diversity. I'm not sure a learning environment can reach its true potential without having people from different backgrounds, different races, different ethnic groups, different religions. And having a situation here at Mount Verde where we have students from 81 different countries speak about 15 different languages really creates the optimal learning environment.
Well, my name is Preciado, and I was born in Miami. I grew up initially in Bogota, Colombia, and I was there for a couple years, probably around 4 or 5. And then I moved to Venezuela, and I lived there for about another 4 or 5 years.
Well, my name is Gabriel Semenitari, but I go by Gabe. I am 16 years old and I'm from Nigeria. I grew up in Lagos I stayed in Lagos for about 10 years till middle school when I went to boarding school in 7th grade, which was then in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, River State. It's a lot of small communities that, it's based on family, so, you might never know who's related to who sometimes. It's a very tight-knit community, especially from where I'm from, which is like Okrika on my father's side and Onopubo from my mother's side. And it's just lots of water, lots of family.
My Chinese name is Zhang Yanni, and here people call me Varina or Yanni. And I was born in China. I lived in Shanghai from age 2 to 14.
The culture, the friends, everything's different.
There are definitely a lot of disparities that I have to adjust when I first came here. In Shanghai, the school system is completely different. For here, we apply to college and the admissions see your different qualities and you're not only based on your scores, but in China, they judge you only on one score. So all 4 years you've been preparing for that one big test, and if you fail, you fail.
Miami and Venezuela are not that different today because many of the people there live there now. Like Miami, it's like a bunch of Cuban people, a lot of Venezuelans are there, you have Colombians, you have Brazilians, so it's a similar atmosphere to what you have in Venezuela with types of culture, the food that you eat, what you go out, what you see on the streets, it's very similar. And then you drive 200 miles further up north, and you're here in Orlando, and it's a lot more different.
So when I was first born in the hospital, my grandma, she came into the room and she asked one question to my dad. She asked, "Is it a girl or a boy?" And my dad said, "It's a girl." And my grandma did not say anything. She just walked away. She just walked out of the hospital, and she didn't really see me since then. And I wasn't really close to her, but once in a while I visited her, but we never built that special bonds together. In Chinese society, women are not seen as equally as men. I mean, now in many societies it's like that, but women are not given the same opportunities in China. Most women in China are expected to be housewives. So when I came to Mount Verde, I want to step out of that comfort zone and that stereotype and explore new things and new opportunities for women. Women can definitely achieve more than people expect.
When I told my grandma, I remember I was 10th grade and I was thinking of doing theater. She was like, hobbies don't put food on the table. Because they're like, we sent you to America because we thought you'd do something that engineering or again medicine, And my parents they just wanted something that, would put food and money on the table and provide for the kids and the wife at home. I know the arts is what's best for me. It's something that I choose to pursue. And with my family and that fact, they support me.
Venezuela today is actually a really messed up country. It's got no economy. There's a huge inflation happening, and there was like 20 dead a minute. So it's not really a place that I would like to go back to. It's a beautiful country. It's got beautiful places, but sadly, it's deteriorated to what it is today.
I remember one time I missed a day of school because they were shooting around my area, and it was like crazy. And I still love my country and where I'm from, but really, you live in a time where there was a lot of corruption.
Well, when I first came over, when I was around 8.5, I had a very small base of English that I learned in Venezuela for a little while. And then I got here and the kids were absolute jerks in first grade.
When I first came, I was supposed to be in 8th grade, but instead my mom thought that my English fluency was bad. So she made me repeat 7th grade again. And because of that, I didn't really have a lot of confidence, and I was shy and afraid to talk to my peers and even teachers. But then other students, I still remember one of my friends, she came up to me and started talking to me, and I built up the confidence gradually.
I was in the airport and I was walking away from the check-in gate, and not all of it was sad. I was kind of very excited and happy, but a part of me was about to cry a little because I was moving away from home.
When I was going into the security in the airport, and when my parents they couldn't go in, so they were standing outside of the security. And when I looked back, I saw my parents, my dad was holding my mom, and they were looking at me and staring in a really sad and emotional way. And I couldn't turn my back because I chose this own path and I have to go through and face it myself.
If there was more schools like Montverde, I think there would be less of the social issues going on that are prevalent in our country today.
When I was in school, I was picked on. And in Nigeria, being someone of my size, my stature, people see me and they thought, oh, he's an athlete, he's gonna be an athletic guy. And elementary school, I was a big kid, and so I got picked on for my weight. My skin was darker than most people's. A lot of people made fun of how effeminate I was because I don't act like most guys. People thought, you can't play with us because you'd rather do this and play drama and dance with the girls, And I'm like, yeah, I don't care though, because it's something I want to do. And it's made me stronger, and I'm strong enough to speak up. I faced it with speaking up. I've been bullied a lot, and that subject of being different or being bullied is something that's close to my heart.
I have definitely faced discrimination before, and even sometimes currently. Different people have their different points of view. So sometimes I meet people who think that a specific race couldn't really have this capacity to do certain things.
In my first grade class, the kids were jerks to me because I didn't speak English. So, I came with a very small base from Venezuela because I studied with my grandma. She took me to classes for a little while. So, I had a small base of how to defend myself, but it was not enough. So, the kids were jerks, and they'd make fun of me the whole time. I'd get excluded from everything. And then they'd bully me at recess, they'd bully me in school, they'd make fun of me. I was that kid in the class that we would have little milk cartons, and then they'd open it and just toss it right at me. And the teacher saw it and they didn't care. I got through it. It was a hard time, but 3 months later I started speaking English fluently, and I got back at them, to say the least.
The learning environment here provides opportunities for our students to become connected and open and accepting.
So being in an international boarding school like Montverde, things are a lot more different than they would be in other places. The atmosphere is a lot more welcoming because of the amount of diversity that they have here. So being a kid that's from Venezuela and that's lived in Colombia but was born here in the United States, it's not weird to come here and just join in. You're not alienated like you would in other places.
I want to thank you guys so much for being a family. Montverde Academy, for giving me an environment where I can thrive, where I can be true to myself.
Montverde is like a little cross-section of the world. I'm a foreigner to the country, but not a foreigner to this community. We're like one family that supports each other. Montverde is like a shield, strong and protective.
When your parents send you from home, you feel like you owe it to them to be something great.
There were a lot of expectations from my parents, and since my parents put a lot of expectations on me, I give myself a higher standard to achieve. However, sometimes I don't achieve my standard that I put for myself, and I get really upset, and I am disappointed in myself sometimes.
I played in 2 different soccer academies, one in La Liga and one here in Montverde. And I'm working really hard to try and obtain potentially a professional opportunity somewhere else in Spain. And play in Europe and play to the next level. And it's really hard for me because I don't get to live the life of a normal teenager. The time that I'm not studying, I'm training. And the time that I'm not training, I'm studying. It's my life. Since I can remember, I've always been around it. It's always been a part of me. I grew up around it. I grew up around the lights of Ronaldinho. The first shirt that I had ever worn was his. And it's always been a part of me. It's always been something that I've loved.
I would like to see the world have more respect and acceptance for the arts, because art really has the power to change the world. The arts in Nigeria, sometimes it's slowly dying. I say revive it, put it forward, give the people something to take them away from their pain.
Find something you love and chase after it. Because along the way, you learn many things about yourself that you probably didn't know before.
I just think that we are in an environment here at Montverde that should be the norm instead of the exception.
I've come to realize that home isn't within 4 walls. It is in things that you love, people that you love, passions that you have, dreams that you dream. Home can never be broken. It can only be found. I am home.
Bitter goodbyes as I drive up the coast. The memories flow.